All right, welcome back. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night. This comes from the NFL Rookie Watch. And you see a lot of guys at the Pitt Panthers who had their pro day today. They had a lot of different people step up. There's a lot of thought about what will happen with some of these guys. The Panthers have had a history of having a lot of guys drafted. Izzy Abanikanda is a guy who may surprise you and go a little higher than maybe people thought. But I think, Chris, the one guy that we keep talking about is Elijah Cansey. And there are those out there who believe that he could be a pick of the Steelers. I know Mark Caboli tweeted that, but there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of things can happen. How would you feel if that happened?
I don't think he would be their pick at 17. I feel like they would look at the position he plays, the way he plays, as more of a luxury item there. I think if he's around at 32 and they feel like they've hit a home run with their first pick, then I wouldn't mind it because they still need youth, talent, explosiveness on that defensive line. He's sort of a small leap of faith, I think, for a team because you've seen another Pitt guy, Aaron Donald, morph into the most dominant defensive player in the league in the last decade and maybe one of the most dominant ever at an undersized, sort of frame for his position, but he's explosive. Cansey checks all the same boxes. I mean, very explosive, very quick, very powerful guy. It's just, do you believe that 6'1", 280 can make it work on the interior of a defensive line?
Got a lot of calls. We'll get to the Pirates in just 1 second, but first let's go to Matt and Butler. First up tonight. Hey, Matt.
Hey, good evening, guys.
What's up, Matt?
When I watched that game last night, I just can't help but thinking this team comes out unprepared. At some point, you got to look at Sullivan as part of this issue too, because they've been so unprepared at different times of the season, where they just come out against a team they should be strong against, and they just don't look like they have any enthusiasm to play. They break down. They're an older team that should be knowledgeable, and they just don't play well. And that's got to reflect on the head coach.
Yeah, there's no question, but it is a mature team. You'd expect them to do better that way. And, they've, again, these problems. Earlier in this year, the Detroit Red Wings were down 4-0 to the Penguins, came back and won a game. I don't understand it. And if you listen to the locker room interviews after the game, it seemed like nobody had really a solution for this, and that included Sullivan, Chris. He didn't really have much to say.
Mike Sullivan sounded like he was at a loss for words, was very quiet, took a long time to say much of anything, and when he did, there wasn't much there. I'm with Matt here. He's exactly right. We'd fricassee Mike Tomlin in this town, even if it was a veteran Steelers team. We actually say it's worse that a veteran Steelers team would come out unprepared, right, Bob? Oh, how horrible of a reflection on a coach who should know better. He never has him ready to play. Mike Sullivan's won 2 cups. No one will ever take that away from him, nor should they, but he deserves to get roasted. And I think the guy's a very good coach, but he absolutely bears the brunt of the blame for them coming out and looking the way they do in some of these games.
Bill in Aliquippa joins us right now on the Bordas and Bordas hotline. Hey, Bill. Bill, turn your TV down, please, and just listen to us.
Okay, hang on a second. Can you hang on a second?
No, we don't have time. Go, quick.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Pirates.
Okay.
I want to say about the Pirates that I like them, whatever, but I don't think they're going to win the World Series unless they have teams like they had back in the 70s, Bob. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Bill, that talk of World Series is so far down the road, I can't even entertain it at this point. But since you brought it up, Chris, let's talk about
What does he mean, good ones like they had in the 70s? Like, yeah, it would be nice. You usually win the World Series when your team is good and has a multitude of good players.
Lots of Hall of Famers, top-end starters. This team doesn't have that. But what does this team have in your estimation? I look at a guy like Kanan Smith and Jigba. They got him, I think it was a Tyone trade. I can't remember which trade. They got him in one of those trades. He's a young kid. And, I want to see guys like that step up and produce. I want to see more of those kind of guys. Your take on what you would expect this year from this group?
I still think this is a team that's probably going to win, I'll say, between like 67 and 72 games. I still think they're going to struggle. I think they're going to be growing pains with some of these young players, both positionally and starting pitching. I think when you see like talent, baseball is the one sport where you trick yourself into thinking, even though I know it won't happen, this guy, every guy named is going to check a box and actually reach their potential. And we know that doesn't happen. There are injuries. Guys just aren't ready. I just want to see the majority of them actually look like they are ready. I want to see the majority of that young talent that's supposed to come up this year and help them, Priester, Andy Rodriguez, guys like that, actually look ready to go when they get up here. But I still think this team is a ways off. And, Bob, as I have to always add in when I'm talking about a Pirates projection, a whole lot of things have to go right for them relative to other teams that can spend their way out of mistakes.
Well, there's no question about that. One thing I've been reading a lot of from just Jason Mackey, Rob Beardtemple, all of those beat writers, is that they sense something's going to happen with Brian Reynolds. I would have thought it would have happened already. I don't know what hang-up would have been. They've had all the offseason. They've had all the spring training. You hear there's, movement here, movement there. Do you expect it to get done at all? And should it get done? Does it matter if it gets done?
No and no. I mean, I would say he's going to be traded. It's not a team that's going to compete. I think people want to believe what it would signify, but I'd rather see O'Neal Cruz get big money from the Pirates on a long-term extension. And I don't think it's going to get done. I think here's what it's going to happen. I know Jason and others have reported the deadline is first pitch for this game to get something done. They'll eventually have something come out where the two sides just couldn't quite meet, and there will be a report that it was this, and then another report that says actually it was closer to this, and it's going to end up being like $20 million apart. And I don't think they're ever going to get particularly close on this front.
Yeah, unfortunately, I tend to agree with that. I was hoping they'd do it just for semantics' sake, just to show that they're interested in doing this when they have an opportunity.
The optics and the principle of the thing would be good, but ultimately, from a strict baseball perspective, I don't think it would be a very good move.
I don't think it matters one way or the other to them because that kind of money should not impact anything they do. You know what I mean? I mean, if he signs it, fine. If he doesn't, fine. But if they sign it, it looks like something that, dovetails off of Andrew McCutchen. Okay, it's a good move. We're bringing back someone who's a face of the franchise. Now we're going to keep a guy who was actually acquired in the McCutchen deal, and we like him, and you still can trade him. Even if he signs, you could trade him at any point.
You could trade him, and he'd be price fixed for another team, and they might be getting a bargain, but you want to talk about optics. The optics of saying, hey, look, we signed a 9-figure extension for somebody. Oh, by the way, we deal him 4 months later or whatever because we're out of it and he's having a huge year and we can get a killing for him in the trade market. Not exactly a message that your fan base would receive well.
I was actually not talking about 4 months. I was talking about 2 years from now. If he signs a 5 or 6 year deal,
well, even then, though, so even then, say you're on schedule to win in two years, but you do think he's replaceable. From a strict baseball standpoint, people might like it, but there'd still be anger and angst about, oh, you signed this guy and then you didn't even see through, more than a third of the deal.
All right, let's get back to O'Neal Cruz real quick, because you said you'd like to see him signed. Does he have to show you more? Or are you committed to do it now? Have you seen enough?
I think now is the time where you get the best bargain potentially because he doesn't have a huge body of work because it's not even 100 games, I think, right, in the major league level. Off the top of my head, it's something like 90 games. You do it now if you want to try to get the best possible deal. You wait 2 months into the season and he comes sprinting out of the gates. That price is going up, fair or not. 60 games would make a difference if he looked like a front runner for MVP. So, yeah, I would take that risk. I'd take a similar risk with a much bigger price tag reflecting how much later it is, 10 years later, that they took with Polanco. I'd give him a 9-figure deal and hope that you're betting and rolling the dice and coming up a winner.
Well, they took one with Brian Hayes, and I'm still waiting to see something for that deal to make sense for me, but we'll find out in time. Let's go to Lou in Baldwin. Lou, what's up?
Bob, you mentioned bringing the younger players in, right? Well, that's good and fine to give them experience, but once they get good, for example, then they want more money, and what happens? They get rid of them because they don't want to pay.
Yeah, okay, sure. That's how it goes. That's what we've been seeing over and over and over again. I get it. But the point is now they have collected people over the last 2 or 3 years under Ben Cherington. It's time for some of these prospects to turn it into production. Too many times in the past, Lou's right. People come, they go. Some of them don't even get to the point where they're. In fact, most of them don't, Chris. So this is incumbent upon Cherington, who I think has done a good job, at least on paper here to this point. These guys have now got to take steps forwards, and I would like to see it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, the only thing I always say about that is I'd like to see it too, we all would, but it always is a bummer to me that their supposed young, great talent is always like 23 or 24. Where's just the guy with the rocket ship strapped to him when he's 20, 21 years old, the really precocious player coming up and being really good really early so that you don't have to do any guesswork. You can sign him into an extension. Right. I'm always just a little bit concerned about the degree of time they want to see these guys in the minors.
Yeah, and to your point, Travis Swaggerty is 25, and he still couldn't make the team this year, even though it looked like he should have made the team this year. So
Right.
that's the example of that. Andy Rodriguez is 21. I'd like to see him here sooner because of that as well. We're going to take a break. We'll take it, come back with more right here. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We do it 7 nights a week right here on Pittsburgh CW and simulcast on 93.7 The Fan.